All right. So come to find a comfortable seat, whatever that means to you. I'm going to put myself on spotlight. All right. So come to find a comfortable seat, preferably with something underneath your sits bones just to make your seat a little bit more comfortable. And then if you've already been sitting, see if you can cross your legs maybe in the opposite way or doing something a little different than you've done before. And then if it feels okay, you can place your palms face down on your thighs as I invite you all to close your eyes to take a moment to settle into your seat, to settle into your body as you arrive here in this virtual space. And maybe just taking a moment to connect with how you are being held currently by the ground underneath you. And then from this place of relationship with the ground, see if you can start to be a bit more particular with your posture here. So see if you can start to reach the crown of the head up towards the ceiling, maybe feeling some length in the spine. Then if it feels okay, you can start to broaden through the collarbones gently while you soften the shoulder blades and soften the shoulders down the back, finding a comfortable place for them. Then from here, see if you can invite maybe a degree more of relaxation into the face by releasing the space between your eyebrows and maybe even releasing the bottom jaw if it's clenched. And then from here, we'll take 3 rounds of breath together to orient us into this space. And so when you're ready, I'll invite you to breathe in through your nose. And then when you're ready to breathe out your choice of an exhale while maybe saying an internal sound of Om. Then when you're ready, you'll inhale through your nose. And then release your exhale, maybe once again saying that internal sound of Om. And then last time, inhale through your nose. And then release and exhale, saying that internal sound of A-U-M. And from here, you can either keep your palms face down on your thighs or you can draw your hands together in front of your heart as I invite you to bow your head towards your own heart center. To take a moment to pay attention to what brought you to your mat today. The reason you are here, the reason you are practicing, whether it's something big and lofty like world peace or whether it's something more personal where you just want to feel a little bit more embodied. And just taking the time now to bring some purpose to your practice and letting whatever intention emerge for you. And then when you're ready, we'll all take a round of breath to seal our personal yet collective intention to be here. And so we'll all take an inhale one last time through the nose. And then release your choice of an exhale. And from here, you can release your hands and open your eyes. All right. Well, welcome. I know most of you, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Heather and I'm a part of YogaX. And we are a special initiative out of the Department of Psychiatry at Stanford. And so we host these yoga classes for the community in hopes of increasing access. And, you know, I think now more than ever, we need practices to feel a little bit more embodied and, you know, connecting with our breath and maybe feeling into our resilience a little bit more. And so the theme that I've thought of today is kind of picked right out of the Yoga Sutras, which is like the philosophical text, kind of outlines yoga psychology. And what I love about the Yoga Sutras is it's pretty much like, okay, if this happens, do this. If this happens, do this, right? And that yoga is really systematic, but also it's a really gradual process, right? It's not like I practice yoga one time, 60 minutes, and I'm enlightened. It's a whole lifetime commitment. And so the sutras that I'm going to be talking about today are kind of paired together. And the first one is saying, any pain that can be avoided should be. And I just love that because it says, right, like, because if you think about pain, there's some pain that's just inherent in living that we cannot avoid. Like we cannot avoid aging, unfortunately. We cannot avoid that things will be different. We cannot avoid that things will decay, right? You know, God, yeah, I see wrinkles on my face and I'm like, oh my gosh, but right, it's a part of these process that we like cannot avoid. But in yoga, they say that pain can be avoided, some pain, right? And so the next sutra is like, well, okay, well, what pain can be avoided? And it's just so matter of fact. It's like the pain that can be avoided is the pain where the seer identifies with the seen. And so what that means is when we identify with what is painful, that can be avoided. That in Buddhism is suffering, right? Is when we have this relationship with the pain, whether we like it or dislike it, or want to avoid it. And so I love thinking about this in terms of a yoga class because, you hear this all the time when people are expressing their feelings, right? Like, I am angry, or you do something and you think it's like you're in a relationship that is just not very, healing or nourishing for you. And you think that there's something wrong or broken with you that you're in this relationship. Or, right, if you're in a forward fold and your hamstrings are like, talking to you, sometimes we hate on ourselves and we're like, oh, it's because I haven't stretched my hamstrings enough, or it's because my hamstrings are bad, right? Or we make it about our personality rather than just being like, I am experiencing intense sensation of my hamstring, right? Or I'm experiencing anger, or I am in this relationship because I'm experiencing this relationship and it's becoming clearer to me that this experience in this relationship might be over, right? And so what I love about yoga is like, right, like yoga says like there's pain and it can be avoided, and here's one of the ways that we can do it. So while today we're going to be moving in postures that are gentle and restorative and a bit more quiet. And so I invite you, in some of the postures, see like where there's discomfort and maybe explore what happens when you experience discomfort, right? Whether it's discomfort in the body, or whether you're bored, or whether there's a feeling that comes up, or whether you're thinking about what's happened on your day, and kind of notice the relationship you have with it and see where you in that relationship can avoid pain, right? By making it worse or making it about you, or creating this whole story when, right, we don't necessarily have to do that. So I know, lofty thing for a 50-minute class, but we'll see how we handle ourselves. So we're actually going to start with a legs up the wall position. And so I'll show you with my wall space. I cannot show you my chair because that's what my laptop is on, but I'll kind of cue you as to what you do there. So if you have a wall space, my suggestion for getting in is you sit as close to one of your sides as you possibly can. Like I'm right up against the wall. Then you lay down, and then because your hips are right at the wall, you turn, and then your legs go up the wall like so. If you are not at the wall, you can, if you have a surface like this, you can just kind of makeshift whatever you have, or you can place your legs with bent knees over the chair. a chair or a couch or kind of whatever surface you have around you, so that maybe you're in like a bent knee position rather than legs up the wall. And so just take your time now to like settle in. We'll only be here for maybe 5 minutes. So try to find a comfortable position. If it really doesn't feel good to have your legs up at all, you can just come to lie down on your back. And once you kind of settled in, you can either keep your eyes open, or if you like, you can close them. And I'll invite you here first to just like keep your hands on your belly, or maybe a hand on your belly and a hand on your chest, just so that you can feel your body for a moment and feel into how it responds to your own breath. And kind of watching this continuous dance of what your body does while you breathe in, as well as noticing what your body does as you breathe out. And see if you can watch your breath, right, without being your breath. So sometimes when we're breathing and paying attention to the breath, we have this desire to change it or want it to be different or better, and whatever that means. And so if you are noticing that, I invite you to be particular about observing it, right? About jumping and making the breath about you, and instead to experience your body breathing. And see if you can notice what comes up for you around that. Something that comes when you watch the breath is you realize how fluid and transient and changing the breath is. That the breath is never the same, and that it responds and moves with each movement and each moment. And so see if you can observe that in your breathing, right? To stay as the seer as you watch what is being seen. And from here, I'll invite you to bring your arms above your head. So you're stretching them up and over. And again, you can do this lying down or with your feet on the wall or chair. And then from here, I'll invite you to start to cross your right arm over to the left and see if you can clasp your right wrist. And then you'll just kind of C curve over to the left. Maybe noticing if any sensations are immediately arising for you, or if it's something that kind of evolves, or maybe doesn't even appear. And especially as you change your body movement, again, can you stay as the seer without making too much of a story around this? And then if you do notice the story, right, can you just notice that the story is happening rather than going on a deep dive into it? All right. And when you're ready, we'll inhale to stretch back out. And then exhale, C curve over to the right. Again, this can be a really gentle side bend. It doesn't have to be anything that causes strain in the body. Again, we kind of move in these shapes, right, so that we can cultivate the position of being the seer, right? Because usually we navigate our day as the seer and the seen. And so our yoga practice really gives us this opportunity to create some space between them. All right, now when you're ready, you'll inhale to reach the arms up. And then if you're legs are on the wall, I invite you to bend your knees. If your feet are on the chair, just walk your, or if your shins are on the chair, just walk your feet to the edge of the chair. And so your knees are bent. And then you might need to move your torso a little bit farther, but then see if you can open your knees into like a lying down, legs up the wall, Baddha Konasana. So supported bound angle. And you might find like you just kind of want to stay put in this position. So kind of keeping a static position, or if you like, you can rock your knees side to side. And again, really cultivating this act, like the position of observing what's happening without necessarily having to be what's happening or have it say anything about you, right? So I know when I'm moving through this, I'm noticing that there's some tense feeling in my abductors, and sometimes I create a story around that. There's, oh, it's because I've been sitting all day, or because my character is bad. You know, that's an exaggeration, but sometimes that does come up. And so can you just kind of let the sensations of your inner thighs just be what they are, sensations, an experience that is happening to you in the now that has no reflection on how magical and wonderful you actually are. All right. And then from here, I'll invite you to bring your feet back onto the wall or onto the edge of the chair. And then you'll start to roll onto one side. Maybe give yourself a moment to rest in this side lying position just for a second or two. And then when you're ready, you'll use your arms and maybe support of your legs to help twist you back into a seat. And then let me move my camera. All right. And so from here, I'll invite you to come into a tabletop shape. And you might want a blanket or a pillow nearby. Also, if your knees, you know, mine are indicating to me that I am sensing that they're feeling sensitive right now. And so I'm just going to place a blanket there. There's something that I read, it's like discerning between growth discomfort and harm discomfort. And so that's also something to observe while you move through your body in these shapes. And so from here, you'll come into a tabletop shape. And if you've been in my class before, maybe you know where we're going. You'll stretch your arms forward, but then walk your left hand back so that the forearm comes down. So if you see me, the right arm is forward, left arm is bent. And then you'll walk your right fingertips over to the left so that you're stretching on the right side of the body. And I'm like resting my head on my forearm because that feels really good for me, but you can always bring a blanket, a block, a pillow, a dog, something that you can rest your head on. And then see, as you kind of rest on this side, if you can press down through your right fingertips and then stretch your right hip back so that you kind of maybe gain some length on the right side of the body. And then once again, kind of notice, right, if there's sensations that are occurring right now, and maybe noticing if there's a story created around these sensations, if there's a story of I. There's a new theory or I don't know how new it is in neuroscience, that like when our mind is wandering or kind of our mind doesn't know what to do, it's called the default mode network, where it creates a story of I and who we are. And so maybe noticing when you're in default mode, when the seer identifies with the seen, rather than just letting yourself be the seer. And when you're ready, we'll look up between the hands, walk your right hand back, and then we'll switch sides. So you'll stretch your left arm forward, walk your right arm back, release your right forearm down, and then from here, walk your left hand over to the right, and then rest your forehead on the forearm, a blanket, a block, a child, I don't know, whatever you have. Hopefully not a child. I don't know if they'd like that. And so see if you can press into all 5 of your fingers of your left hand as you stretch the left hip back to create a long line through the left side of your body. And see if you can experience the sensations here without having to be them. We're practicing this in a pretty low stakes situation, right? In a yoga class where we're just moving into the body so that hopefully when you're off your mat at any moment where you can that there's an intense feeling or intense sensation, you have cultivated the tools to give yourself a moment to pause as to whether you do want to identify with it. That you get a choice. That future pain can be avoided. And when you're ready, you'll walk your hands forward and then walk your hands back. And then maybe starting to wiggle your hips side to side. I'm creating a C curve. And then maybe starting to move your whole body in a circle. So I'm moving back towards my hips, over to the left, forward, and then to the right, creating like I'm drawing a clock. And then see if you can go the opposite way. All right. And then coming back to center. And then from here, tuck your toes. And then make sure that you can gain all of your toes are kind of together. And then grab your bricks, or if you have a chair in front of you or an ottoman, any of that will be great. And then see if you can come sit back on your heels. So if you've been in my class before, you know this is my like love-hate shape. And so as you sit back on your heels, right, you might notice that you have a increased sensation. And so again, you can use the supports in front of you, whether it's a block or a chair, to lessen the sensation, or you can come to sit up on your heels. And again, kind of building this discernment between what feels like a growth discomfort versus like a harmful discomfort. Right, and maybe, I know for me, I have lots of sensations in the bottom of my feet, and particularly one of my feet, I have lots of stories around. And so especially as we kind of sit here for the next 5,000 years, I'm just kidding, for the next couple of rounds of breath, right? See if there's stories being created, and again, cultivating the skill of just kind of noticing that there's stories, right? Knowing that this is an habitual thing that humans do, right? And actually an efficient thing that our brain does. But that we're using our yoga practice, right, to give ourselves some space from it, to watch it, to witness it, to see if we actually want to believe the story or finish the thought. All right. So now when you're ready, we'll take one more full round of breath here. And then walking the blocks forward, untuck the toes, and then moving into my favorite yoga pose where you just tap the tops of your feet. And then come sit on your heels. And then move the blanket if you have it in front of you. And we'll just move it off to the side. So now we're going to move onto our bellies. And you might want a block in front of you. You might want a yoga bolster. I'll show you all of the different options, but again, you get to kind of be creative with what you'd like. I'm gonna make sure everything's moving. And so just coming forward and lowering your belly onto the floor. Let me put my hair up so you can hear me and see me. Okay. So from here, bring the hands underneath the shoulders just to start with, the forehead and the bridge of the nose down to the floor. And then see if you can zip up the insides of the legs. So it's like you're pressing out through the big toe side, and that the outer hips are hugging in. So the outer hip muscles are hugging in towards the pelvis. And then you're pressing the tops of the feet into the ground. Lots of work here. And then when you're ready, I'll invite you to now start to walk your hands forward. So you're coming into a sphinx shape. So palms face down, and then your elbows are bent, and you get to decide how far forward you'd like it, how far back. But doing it in a way, right, where you might feel a little bit of sensation in your back, right? That's interesting that you can experience rather than anything that feels harmful or that just feels beyond what this moment is asking for you. And so just coming onto the forearms, and then you can stay here if you like, or you can maybe start to stretch the arms long. We're going to be holding it for maybe a minute or so. So choose a pose that like you could hold for a while. Also, if you have a pillow or a support in front of you, you can bring the forearms to the pillow to lift into a back bend. So you get to make choices as to what feels good for you. But see if you can keep strength in the legs as you press them into the ground. And then see if you can broaden through the collarbones. And then the shoulders, the humerus will kind of sink back into a nice place if you kind of let it go home. And then maybe closing your eyes here as you maybe feel the shape from the inside out. And once again, see if you can experience your experience without having it have to mean much more than what this moment is, right? That you're resting on your yoga mat, you're in a shape, you're breathing. And we'll take a couple more rounds of breath here. Maybe you raise the corners of your mouth as you hold this. And then from here, if you're not already on your forearms, come onto your forearms. And then from here, so tuck your toes underneath and lift your legs. So you're just kind of lifting your knees off of the floor. And then see if you can land the thighs down where some of the weight is going to the outer kneecap of both legs. Then you'll bend your right knee and flex the ankle. Then see if you can keep pressing the hip bone into the floor, and then draw the knee back as you engage the outer right hip. Then see if you'd like to lift the leg up like a centimeter or two. Mine does not go very high. And then lower. Release the leg. All right, now we'll switch. So bend the left leg, flex at the ankle. Then from here, see if you can lengthen through the quad, engage the outer hip, And when you're ready, inhale to lift the thigh, maybe a centimeter. Like you can't even see my leg lifting and I'm trying pretty hard. And then exhale to lift the quad and then release the leg. And then maybe shake out the toes, come onto the backs of your hands and release into a makrasana shape or a crocodile pose. Maybe wiggling your hips side to side. Giving yourself this moment to once again observe your experience of simply resting here and what that means to you. Or maybe what it doesn't mean to you, right? Maybe just watching that I am resting. There's a sensation of my mat on my skin, the clothes on my body. My body changes with each breath. And really practicing the act of being the seer, to watch, to witness. Without stopping short of being the seen. So now, when you're ready, stretch your right arm up away from you. And then you'll bring your left hand underneath your left shoulder, and then you'll come to rest on your right side. So from here, you can either keep your right leg straight, like so, or you can bend your right knee slightly if in like a kind of fetal position, if that feels more comfortable and you feel more balanced. This requires some bit of balance, and again, these are more kind of gentle or shapes that ask us to feel some quieting internally. And so if this doesn't help feel quiet, right, you can always bend your knees. My earbud. Okay, so from here, I'm going to bend my knee. You'll bend your left knee and draw your hip behind you. Maybe you can reach the outer foot with the hand, maybe not. If you have a strap, this is a great place for a strap to grab your foot. But regardless of what your hand is doing with the foot, see if you can lengthen through the quad so that the knee moves down towards the bottom of your mat and that there's length in the front hip flexor. And then feel as if you're like kind of imagine that the pelvis is a bowl and you're tucking the front of the bowl so that none of the imaginary liquid moves forward. And then see if you can draw the left foot towards the left hip as you press the hip foot into the hand. And then we'll hold this for a couple of rounds of breath. See if you can keep the thigh more or less parallel to the ground. And once again, seeing if you can feel into your experience. Right, to really practice as best you can to be fully in it without needing it to be different or needing it to say anything about you and your experience. Right, that you can feel the sensation of the quad without creating a story about what the sensation means. And then when you're ready, releasing the top leg, coming back into the lying on your side position. And then you can either roll onto your back and then onto your other side, or you can roll onto your belly and then roll onto the other side. I'm going to stay on this side so that you can see me. So I'm going to do the same side. So now I'm going to try to mirror it left and right. So we'll see how this goes. So now you're lying on your left side, and then your left arm is bent and used as a nice little pillow for your head. And then the top arm, I didn't say this in the last one, is kind of helping in front of you to help you at least in the beginning. And then bend, you can either have your bottom leg straight or bent. Then when you're ready, you'll bend your right knee. And then see if you can draw your quad back and your knee back so that it's more or less in line with the body. And then grab your right foot with your right hand. And then see if you can press the foot into the hand while the hand pulls the foot in towards the hip. And then see if you can pull in on the front of the pelvis, right? So imagining that it's a bowl and you're trying not to have the bowl tip to pull forward. And then once again, just kind of letting your mind settle to trying to watch your experience. And so sometimes having something to watch, like being with a sensation in your body or being with your breath, can be really helpful because you really get to watch what's happening in your body. Sometimes it's hard to watch the mind because the mind is so convincing that it scoops us up and all of a sudden we don't know where we've gone and what we've thought and where we've been. And so it's always okay to keep bringing your attention back to the body, to keep practicing the skill of seeing. All right. And when you're ready, you release that top leg. Just your legs back. And then from this time, I'm going to invite everybody to roll onto your belly. Bring your hands underneath your forehead and wiggle your hips side to side. If you'd like, you can bend your knees and just move your legs side to side. I love these like wiggles or shakes because it feels like the Etch-a-Sketch yoga pose where you just kind of clear everything out. Because sometimes the shapes leave residues, right? A big part of how we experience the present moment is we actually relive in the residue of what's happened before. Rather than trying to experience what is happening now. And so again, practicing the seeing so that we can see the now a bit more clearly without residue, without needing it to be about us. And when you're ready, you can release your legs if they're moving. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. And then we'll press the body up in whatever way you need to. I think the hardest yoga pose for me is getting off the floor. And I'll just so come to find a comfortable seat and I'll show you the next kind of, I wouldn't call it a sequence, but like kind of next set of options is probably a better way. And so the option that we just did is totally an option for right now. What we'll be working with is half heroes pose. And so I'm going to show first with supports and then without. So a good way to come into this shape, is you'll sit on a brick and then you'll bend your knees. If the ankles in this much plantar flexion is like a no-go, this is where the bath towel comes in, where you roll it. So I'll show you this. Lots of support first. So you roll it like so. Then you'll extend one leg out and then flex at the ankle and so that the toes are like alive. And then you'll move the body to the side to like, let me show it on the other side so that you can see what I'm doing. You're kind of like moving the muscle from the calf over to the side so that you can rest like so. And then the left toe is pointed back, or the toe that's of the knee, the bent knee is pointed back. Okay, so this is one option. And you can work around maybe lying back. The trick is to keep moving the quad forward. If you don't have a yoga brick, another option is doing it with a pillow or series of pillows. I'll just do it back this way so you can see me. And you can also do it with the extended leg bent. So you can do it here or here. And you'll just practice with, if this is enough for you, totally feel free to sit here. You can also kind of walk the hands back. You can also do it without support, but again, when choosing a pose, right, it's discerning between like growth discomfort, which feels like, right, oh great, I get to watch and witness things and get to learn like what's happening in my body, versus like harmful discomfort where you get so caught up in the story of like what it means to be in the pose and be in a version of the pose that might not be the best for you in the moment. So I'll leave you to kind of make those discerning choices, but we'll all start together. So just come to sit on what other prop you have, whether it's a pillow or a block. And then I'll invite you to have both legs out in front of you. Then you're going to bend your right knee. And then you're going to draw your left leg out to the side. Okay. Then you'll move over to the right, and like you can really exaggerate. I love doing this. You'll really like move the muscle over to the opposite side, and then make sure that the toes are pointed back, and then draw the knee in. So from here, you can keep the foot on the floor, or you can extend the leg out in front of you. And then you can decide here, like if this feels like enough sensation in the quad where you have enough to see, right? You can stay here. Or you can practice maybe walking the hands back and resting here. Again, the trick is wherever you are, that you keep the quad movement going down towards the knee. If this feels intense on the knee in a way that feels like aggravating, just heighten whatever you have under your hips. So use your blocks, your blankets, whatever you have. And so we'll just come to kind of rest in this shape. You might not use the word rest. For some people, this is like, they love this shape. While for other people, this is their fuck the yoga teacher that's making me do this. So see kind of, right, if there's that story being created of like, oh, I love this, and this makes me feel like this says something about me, right? Or, oh, I hate this, and this says something about me, right? And so while you're resting here, see if you can once again tune into something that's physically happening in the moment that you can observe. Right. So whether it's something that's happening in your body or something in your breath, something that you can be as close to fully with. And you've probably noticed throughout this whole class that sometimes it's really hard for the mind to attend to one thing. And so know that even the moments that you recognize you're caught merging the seer with the seen, that you are seeing once again. We'll take maybe another 5 more full rounds of breath here. And when you're ready, using your arms behind you. So if you have decided to lie back, make sure that you come onto your forearms first, and then slowly push yourself up into a seat. Then bend the extended leg, so the right leg, lean over to the right, and then extend the left leg out. Stretch both legs out and then shake them out. All right. So next side, so now you'll bend the left knee, and then you'll lean left, draw the right foot back, and then see if you can really get your hand in there to like move the calf muscle out of the way. And then just making sure that the toes are pointed back behind you. And then you can decide here, you can keep the left leg bent or you can extend it out in front of you. And then you can decide here if you'd like to just practice sitting up, if this feels like enough to see into the front quad, or you can kind of work your way back. Again, the important part is that the quad is moving down towards the knee and that you are practicing seeing. And practicing observing both your external and your internal experience, while also not, or doing as best you can to try to not become them. Or we do this all the time where we're like, I am angry, I am sad, I am sister, I am employee, I am boss, right? When in yoga, they actually believe that you are way more than any of your roles could even cover. And so see, right, in this practice where we're kind of watching and seeing all of the little labels we come up with and trying as best we can to not become attached to them. Not in the way of apathy, but in a way of becoming curious or inquisitive or learning to become our own researcher. Becoming the biggest nerd of your experience. All right. We'll take maybe 1 or 2 more rounds of breath. And then from here, you'll, again, if you're lying all the way back, come onto your forearms first, and then slowly hoist yourself up into a comfortable-ish seat. And then you'll bend your left knee over to the left side, extend your right leg out, and then I'll invite you to, if you are on a prop, to move off of the prop and then move it to the side. But keep a pillow or a block handy just so you have it nearby, or a bath towel. You honestly can do any of this with any of the props you have. But you'll come to lie on your back first, and first keep your knees bent. Okay. And so first, before we get the prop, I'll have you hook. We'll do my favorite shape for the timing. You'll hook your left foot behind your right, so kind of like so. And then you'll draw your left knee over to the left. And so you'll start to feel maybe a little bit of sensation on the left hip flexor. Maybe closing your eyes here as we start to lie back and feel again the experience of the shape from the inside out. And again, maybe becoming curious about what it means to be in this shape and how you experience it. And stopping at the place where you are convinced it has something to do with your personality or who you are. We'll take 1, 2 more rounds of breath here. And then when you're ready, you'll draw the left knee up, maybe even using the left hand to support the travel. And then when you're ready, we'll switch sides. So the right foot hooks behind the left, and then you'll draw the right knee out to the right. And maybe closing your eyes and settling into this side. As you again kind of move into the observer role. Learning to become your own researcher and collecting data on your experience without jumping to conclusion. You're learning to watch and witness. And when you're ready, bring the right hand to the outside of the knee to draw the leg up. And then you'll keep your feet planted, and then you'll lift your hips from here and then place a brick, a pillow, or a folded blanket right underneath your sacrum. So this is like the flat part of your spine. And really see if you can lift your hips, tuck your tail away, and then rest it on the prop. That'll kind of add some nice little traction in your spine. And then you can decide here if you'd like to just hang out in this shape and if this feels really nice. Or you can walk your feet forward to make it a longer back bend. And again, knowing that there's no better or worse shapes. There are just different shapes. And so coming into a shape that feels interesting to you, where you can stay in the position of seeing and not have to do anything about it. And so we'll hold this maybe for a couple more rounds of breath. And then from here, you can decide if you want to stay in this shape. Please feel free to take your last resting shape here. Or if you like, you can make your transition into a full lying down shape, where your eyes are closed, your arms are down by your sides, grabbing any last little supports that you might need. Maybe noticing if you're feeling cold without having to be cold, or identify with cold or make a relationship with cold. Can you grab the prop that you need to help you feel a little bit more comfortable? And then finally releasing the attention from any one particular thing. See if you can, instead of being diligent about seeing what's happening in the body and with the breath, I wonder in the next couple moments of class. Can you let the seer see who you are beyond the labels, beyond the stories, as we rest for the final moments of class in silence? From here, see if you can start to bring your attention, your seer, back to the breath. To slowly watch the conversation that happens with each inhale and each exhale. And then when you're ready, see if you can start to invite movement into your body in whatever way feels organic or intuitive, that eventually helps you come to find a comfortable seat. And then when you're ready, you can place your palms face down on your thighs, or you can bring them together in front of your heart. As I invite you all to close your eyes and bow your head deeply to your own heart center, to acknowledge that our yoga practice is to cultivate the tools of awareness and attention so that we can become a little bit more observant of the transient nature of nature and of life, so we can watch and witness and be open to what is not transient, what is permanent, our natural selves as resilient, capable, adaptive, and loving, so that we can be both the seer, the seen, and the seeing. Thank you so much for practicing with me today and for seeing and witnessing. A big bow of gratitude to all of you. Thank you.